All right, hopping in real quick to let you know about something we're super excited about. If you've known the show for any length of time at all, you'll know that Steven and I are both musicians. We've played together in bands for something like 20 years at this point, and we currently have a duo that's just the two of us, and we just put a new single out. It's available worldwide. I'll let Steven tell you how to find it, what it's called, what it's all about, and then we'll carry on with the episode. Hope you enjoy.
Yeah, the single is called In Memoriam. Our band name is Token Sacrifice. So if you just look us up on your favorite app, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you use, you should be able to quickly find us. We got a single there, and hopefully more to come.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of old tracks as well you can find on most of the platforms, but this one specifically deals with like people that we've lost in our life. It's very meaningful to us, and we hope you like it as well. Anyway, until next time, have a great day. Well, hello. Nick here, hopping in real quick just to let you know that this episode might feel a little bit out of sync with the others you may have heard recently. If you've been listening sequentially, just be aware that this episode was actually recorded in the past, and for some reason we never released it at the time. So, I just wanted to say that out loud so that it wouldn't be confusing. If it feels like we're sort of out of sync with the more recent episodes, that's because that's an entirely accurate assessment. So hope you enjoy it. We may pepper a couple more of these in the coming weeks as we sort of get back on our feet. And I will, notify you ahead of time if anything like that is happening. It doesn't really matter. The topic is what it is. But for some reason, I feel compelled to bring people into sort of the story of what this podcast is, especially because we tend to talk about either current events or especially what's going on in our own lives. So at the time this one was recorded, we only had one kid in my family. Now we've got two. And so it's actually weird for me to go back and listen to it and be like, wow, that was kind of crazy. So hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you next time. Welcome to the Working Man's Weightlifting Show, the show where working men talk about weightlifting. I'm your host, Nick Wiley, and I'm joined today by my permanent co-host and younger brother, Mr. Steven Wiley. Steven, how you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Always got to ask. I care about you.
No, you don't.
Care about your well-being. I've always had to look out for you because I was the older brother. Had to make sure food was on the table. Electricity was working, heat, air conditioning,
wow,
plumbing.
Good grief.
I'll stop this now. Oh, man. Well, back together. It's an early morning. If you've been listening lately, you'll know that we moved our recording time from the evening to the morning, which hopefully you'll find interesting. Otherwise, I wouldn't have said it. I'm just waffling here. What are we talking about?
We're talking about ways to speed up your training sessions if you're short on time.
Yeah, because aren't we all?
Yeah.
Right?
Pretty much.
I mean, so really, this is just like how to be in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know who you are if you have a lot of time to be in the gym. Who are you really? I guess those people are out there.
They are.
I don't want to be offensive, but I will. So,
wow. Very nice.
Yeah. I actually feel like I have a lot to say about this because, I'm excited about talking about it because I've lived in this world for a long time, and there's a lot of little micro pieces to it. Like the whole parenting side of it. There's the self-employed, constantly have appointments side of it, which is relevant for me and maybe hopefully some others that listen to the show. So yeah, I'm excited to dig into that. And then you can bring in more of the like actual expertise.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, folks. Up next is that. But before we say that, we got to do a recap, how training's been going lately. And before we do that, I have to have a quick message from today's sponsor. And before we do that, if you'd like to support the show, please
visit our website, workingmansweightlifting.com. There's a lot of resources on there. You can visit the shop, buy some merch. You can actually just, straight up just give us money if you'd like to do that. We'd really appreciate it. But the single best thing you can do is, just share the show with somebody that has never heard it before, that you think might enjoy it. And it also really helps, another like sort of freebie thing that goes a long way. If you would leave us a review on your favorite podcasting app, that goes a long way towards ranking us in the lists, which really helps us reach more people. And I think that I have noticed we've been getting some reviews lately. So we had kind of a dry spell, which I think is very common with podcasts. You sort of have a burst in the beginning and then you just go dry for a while. And now there's new reviews coming in. And so I just want to say thank you for that. We really appreciate it. That really, really helps out. So yeah, thanks for listening and for your support. In moving ahead, our sponsor for today, I can't say enough good things about this group, the organization, LLC, corporation, just all around good guys. They look a lot like us.
Oh, you don't say.
They probably smell like us too.
Weird.
I know. Probably are us. Yeah, they are. It's just us. If you're new here, we don't take money. We do, but nobody gives it. So, we get to say what we want, which is exciting, I think. Yeah. I don't like being owned.
No,
man.
But
if that ever happens, if we are ever owned by the man, we'll at least tell you that we are.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. Forging ahead, limited time. What are your thoughts?
Thought you said we were going to do a recap.
I forgot about that. See, we're so short on time, we're not going to do a recap. Just kidding.
Here's one.
We should do a recap.
Just cut it out.
Yeah.
So we're moving on.
Exactly.
Moving on in the spirit of the topic.
Yeah. No, let's do a recap. That'd be good.
Well, I thought that was cool to not. Training for me is going pretty well. I have been constantly making some tweaks. I think we talked about on a previous episode, but I've had a lot of back issues that I've started to alleviate by trying new movements, some like single leg stuff, single-sided stuff. And I'm definitely, I'm in a good headspace to try to get stronger again for a while, just to push strength. But I'm also trying to not really approach it like I have in the past 100%. Like in other words, I'm trying some new movements for some of my other, like besides the big lifts. I'm doing the big lifts, but I'm also trying new techniques or new warm-ups or new other assistance movements, if you want to call them that, to try to keep my body feeling better. Because I can just definitely tell a difference since I've made some of these changes, and they seem like something I want to keep doing. I don't enjoy hurting all the time, so I try to. I think in the past I've just kind of always just running through the pain and just continue to do it. I don't know that's the smartest step going forward now.
Probably not.
Yeah. So anyway, so far it's going quite nicely. I don't really have any major updates. I haven't hit any PRs in a while, but
yeah,
I have been able to deadlift again with a straight bar, conventional deadlift, which is very exciting because it's probably my favorite thing to do in the gym. It's always been my best lift. At the moment, it is not anything impressive, but I am now back into like the 300s, which for what I used to do is significantly low, but it feels really good to be able to do that again and not be in a bunch of pain or anything like that. I think my form is better than it used to be when I was younger and everything. So hopefully I can get back closer to some of the numbers that I used to hit and do so pain-free is the goal.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I'm hoping this year I will be back into some pretty decent numbers for what I call decent for myself. with the main lifts.
What would that? Let's just put it out there. What would make you happy? We get
Well,
to
pretty
December
much-
2024.
well, so yeah, if I was consistently squatting over 300, but like feeling really good about it, feeling really solid, for reps, like I'm not saying it has to be 10 reps, but
Yeah.
so in the past I've done 315 for like one of the programs I was on. I did like a set of 11 followed by a set of 8. It kind of had this kind of pyramid style to it. But that was 315. I've done a 415 deadlift it was either 11 or 12 reps. It was several years ago. I can't even really remember. And my bench has always been pretty bad, and it's honestly probably better right now, but I do a lot. I swap a lot between dumbbells and barbells, and I'm not, that doesn't really matter to me. I'm more do that for the actual muscle building than I do for the strength of it. If I had to say, I would say consistently, a consistent repping bench over 250, squatting over 315, and deadlifting over 405 would be my goal for the end of the year, but doing so relatively pain-free.
Yeah. And
So
that's
we'll see.
for you, any new listeners, you're a flooring installer and tile installer for your trade.
Full-time, yeah.
And so you're talking about doing all that while also spending the entire rest of the day
Moving,
doing manual
lifting
labor.
things.
So
Yeah.
I feel like that's something we've wanted to lean into this year was sort of like, how weightlifting relates to our jobs. And that's definitely something to keep in mind. If you're listening to the show and you're listening to Stephen talk about his numbers or me talk about it, like hopefully it's in the context of like what we do.
Yeah.
Because my life could not be more different in the day to day, literally just sitting in an office chair
Yeah.
all day. So the demons that I have to keep at bay are very different.
Yeah.
And let's be real, lesser, I'm definitely less of a man.
No.
No, I don't know. So recap for me, let's see. I'm actually feeling pretty good, which is maybe a surprise to anyone who's listened to the last few episodes we put out. I have had the darndest time trying to get back on the horse for months and months and months. My son, I can no longer just use him as an excuse now that he's like almost 2, which is mind blowing. It just took me the longest time. I think it was like a mental thing of like
Yeah.
feeling like I can't take weightlifting seriously because I'm now a dad. Like and it obviously is the number one priority, but I think a big part of it was just like, man, like I know intellectually that if I get up and work out, I feel better throughout the day, even on less sleep. That's the biggest thing. I would tell myself that I need more sleep. And the truth is, I'm not a sleep expert. I'm not a doctor, but I can just say for me personally, like it's actually way more about where I'm at in the sleep cycle than it is how many hours I got. If I get 5 hours versus 8, the feeling is quite similar. It's more about where I was at when I woke up in that, range. So, I'm finding that I just had to sort of get over that mental hump. And so the last couple of weeks is like the first time I've actually done what I said I was going to do weightlifting wise. And so I'm making progress. I'm doing the strong lifts 5x5 at the moment. I was doing starting strength before that, which is extremely similar. The numbers are just a little bit different, but the style of workout is like very, very similar. The only reason I switched is because I rediscovered that I had the Strong Lifts app on my phone, which I had paid a lot of money for, and I like it a lot. So I just wanted to use it, and I don't like I'm going to use the app of the program that I'm on if they have one, just because that feels like the right thing to do. I don't know why, but I really like the Strong Lifts app. I keep saying that like every episode, but I like it a lot. So. In fact, I've discovered recently you can build a custom schedule on there. So I'm thinking, I may continue using it even if I change to something else in the future. But it's going well. I think I got my last numbers were squat was 155 for 5 sets of 5. Bench is like rough. It's like 105 for 5 sets of 5, I think. And then deadlift was 200 for 1 set of 5. And you know, the other big thing for me, we discussed, I don't remember if we did this on the show, but I'm trying to really take my shoulder rehab seriously. People will know who've listened in the past that I had shoulder surgery now 9 years ago, I think. And it definitely was impacting, you noticed watching me that my entire body is like now starting to compensate for that. So even if I was doing a squat, which you wouldn't think would really involve your shoulder, it was like leaning on that one side. And I think it was causing injuries, like little micro injuries. So I would like finish a workout without doing that much weight and just feel bad. Like I had tweaked something in the wrong direction. So I'm using the safety bar for squatting now so that it basically entirely removes the shoulder from the equation. And I'm also using the trap bar for deadlifting. So those two things alone have made a massive improvement. I don't feel like I feel like I can just lift the weight and I'm not thinking about the shoulder. Whereas I used to have to really, really think about it.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know, eventually I'll be able to re-engage if I can get it rehabbed. But in the meantime, I'm trying to get strength numbers back up without worrying about the injury so much. So that's been a very helpful change. And yeah, bench I'm doing with conventional. I thought about using, we have a football bar or whatever you call it, multi-grip bar. It's got spider webs all over it right now. So
yeah,
I just haven't gotten it out. But for some reason, the way that my arm is on the bench, it's not really bothering me right now. So
yeah,
I don't know if you noticed me leaning, tell me and I'll switch. But
no, you're doing pretty good. I think it's all going a lot smoother for you.
Yeah. Anyway,
sure.
Yeah. So good update. Moving right along.
Forward.
We should have just skipped it. Maybe I'll just delete all this, like you said. What to do unlimited? I'm sweating out in here, dude. I am just sweltering. Are you hot?
It's a little warm, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
71.
It's too late now. Once you have headphones on, there's no way to gracefully remove a hoodie. So I'm stuck. Yeah. What to do on limited time? Where do we start on this? I guess that we have probably talked before somewhat about like programs that are built for limited time, but we could maybe touch on that briefly.
I'm more thinking, tips for helping you in the moment.
Yeah,
because that's usually when it strikes.
Yeah.
I don't think most people. You probably shouldn't embark on a program, in my opinion, that requires time if you're just refusing to carve out enough time for it. So, in other words, you shouldn't prepare for failure. You should prepare to be successful at it. But with that being said,
not to move past that too quickly, that's a big thing for you. You bring that up a lot.
Yeah.
Like don't commit to something that you can't do.
Right. Yeah. You really should. If you look at a program and you're like, man, that's a lot of stuff in a day. I don't know that I can do all that. Then you probably shouldn't. In other words, is what I would say. I think you should move to the next program that's a little shorter, or maybe So this would be a good first thing to say. Like for an example, I've been working out 3 times a week. You've been doing it twice a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday for me. That allows me and Nick to come out here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, record a podcast or anything else we need to do for the show. And it also allows me an extra 2 days of recovery throughout the week with my manual labor job. The only thing about that is that full body sessions. So we're doing full body 3 times a week. They have to be longer. You should not do a full body workout if you're not giving yourself some time on those 3 days, because you're doing less days. Well, they're going to have to be a little longer because you're going to have to hit everything. There's one way right there. I think people confuse a limited time with actual time spent in the gym, hour and a half, whatever it is, 45 minutes, to how many days you can go. Well, you might could go every day, but the sessions just need to be shorter because you don't have maybe you need more sleep than the next guy. Okay. So if that's the case, but you have the morning free, you simply need more sleep, but you have a certain cutoff time. You have a job to go to, or you have a kid to take care of, whatever the obligation is. Well, then, let's move to a next one. Okay. Well, up from a full body would be, in my opinion, upper lower. That's typically Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. That's how I used to train all the time. Those sessions a little bit shorter because now you're just focusing upper body, just focusing lower body. So once you get past, say, your strength work, if that's what you're working on, could be 5-3-1, could be like a starting strength or a strong lifts type style. A lot of these programs have 4-day versions. You can find them online. The reason for that, I mean, literally, the Texas method would be the step up from starting strength. They have in the book a 4-day method because of the fact that 3 days a week, once you take on the Texas method, they say that Monday can go upwards of like 3 hours.
Wow.
And they don't have any sympathy for you if you say that's too long. They don't care if that's your opinion. They're like, this is what works. If you want to be strong, here's how you do it. The only sympathy they show you is you can break it up into a 4-day program. I believe it's 4 days in the book. I've not done it because I'm not committing 3 days or 3 hours on a Monday to a gym session. I just don't have time for that. I don't want to do that. So, that's a good first way. Then beyond that, you might go to what people call a bro split or push pull legs or something where you're just really all you're doing is just reducing the amount of your body that you have to hit in one session. And that alone can help you with time. But like I said, that's more for your planning. I would look at that first with your time and just say, okay, how many days can I go and how much time each day do I have to do this? If the time doesn't really matter to you, like for myself, if I'm going to commit to 3 days, I'm just going to make enough time to be there and get all my lifts in as much as possible. So just look at that days and time, see what you have, and then you can kind of pick a program from there, or you can slightly modify one to make it fit into the schedule. So just because I think, like I said, you need to plan for success with the program and you need to follow it as best you possibly can. You can make tweaks, if you need to swap out a lift, like in Nick's case, he's got a bad shoulder. He's going to need to tweak about every program that's out there because it's not a bad shoulder like he's just complaining for no reason. He's got like a medical issue in there where it's like you have to make a slight change to the program. So anyway, in the moment, you're lifting, say you've committed, you've made the program like myself, 3 days a week, full body. You're in there and you're like, maybe you slept in a little bit. Like you just, for some reason, I think everybody has those days where just you can't explain it, but somehow like 3 of your alarms have gone off and you didn't know any of them had gone off.
Yep.
I've happened to me, that happens, but you still don't want to just throw away the whole day. You're like, I'm committed. I'm going to do this. It just takes you a little bit longer to get there. You're starting late. Maybe you're starting 15 minutes late, half an hour late, whatever it is. That's significantly cutting into your time. Straight off the bat, my first go-to is just supersets or even giant sets, which would be 3 exercises back to back. So superset will be 2, giant set will be 3. That is an excellent way to dramatically speed up your lifting time, but still get in pretty much all of the same quality work. But we've talked about in the past, you need to make sure you are doing, I would not go in there and do 3 types of curls back to back.
You have to
you need
choose workouts that are complementary.
Yes, yeah. And even better, if you could do like, say on your full body session, there's abs in there's legs, and there's chest. Those are 3 movements you could easily giant set, and they shouldn't really take away from the other. Because you're not, I think Wendler said it in one of his books, it's like you're not, if you can't handle doing, it shouldn't be an issue. In other words, like you doing a set of dumbbell bench, or say it's dumbbell incline bench right behind a set of squats, other than just being a little bit out of breath, maybe you shouldn't have much of an issue pulling that off. It's not going to negatively impact your squatting. But, you know, if you're in a gym and you're doing squats followed by a superset with maybe like a hack squat machine or a leg press, and then you're going and doing like calf raises, well, now it's like, okay, yeah, you're doing a different movement, but your legs are exhausted. So the next time you go to squat, you might not even be able to squat the same amount of weight. You might have to actually take weight off the bar. And that's really just kind of negatively impacting your progress. Even though you're wearing yourself out and you might feel like you're burning the muscle up, it's like, I think you would do a lot better to go ahead and get the quality sets in. In other words, working sets, the maximum weight you're going to use. It doesn't really matter how that looks. Like I said, it could be 5-3-1 where you're working up to one top set, or it could be 5 sets across like Nick does, where it's just 5 sets of the same weight. You're better off to do that than if Nick were to go in there and do 5 sets of that, but he giant sets it with leg press and calf raises. And now all of a sudden that second set of 5 is nearly impossible because he's just burned himself out. And if it's not impossible, you're probably going to barely be able to walk when you get done with the 5 sets, honestly. But anyway, yeah, I think that is off the bat. That's my favorite way to start speeding things up. The other,
because you can almost just go you can almost go without rest, depending on what weight range you're in. If you're in sort of a low to mid weight range, you can basically do a set of, let's say, a push style workout. Let's say it's bench press.
Yeah.
And then immediately get off the bench and go do a pull. Like you could do a row against that. Like almost basically your rest is like how long it takes you to get off the bench and go pick the other weight up.
Exactly.
And there's maybe a little bit of cost of like cardio, which isn't a bad thing. Like you're going to be breathing a little harder when you finish it, but there's no like, you know, you're working such different muscles. Like your body can do it, you know?
Yeah. And even that, I mean, that would be your next best way to speed things up is rest time, cutting your rest times back. But what you need to realize is if you do the supersets, well, okay, or even like I said, a giant set, say you're going to do 3 movements back to back. Well, if you did squats and then you did incline bench and then you did abs or even rows or whatever, well, you don't need to go ahead, like, you know, if your program calls for 3 minutes of rest in between heavy sets, you don't need to rest necessarily 3 minutes after that third movement before you start the next one, because it's a totally different movement. Like your lats from the pulling movement. So the rows are working your lats. They're going to get like at least 3 minutes of rest by the time you actually get back to them from that 3-part movement. You know, you're squatting and then you're benching. So while you're benching, your lats and your legs are resting a good bit. While you're rowing, your legs and your chest or your pecs are resting a good bit. So you're reducing rest periods by not resting.
Well, you're almost like layering them on top of each other.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Like you're starting the timers for each rest
after as soon as it's done with that one movement. Yeah. So it helps. I think what you'll find, like it may be a little daunting at first, you know, and you may even have to pull some weight off the bar to do it the first time. But once you get used to it, it doesn't take very long. It's like any kind of cardio. It doesn't take very long for you to get very used to it, and all of a sudden it's not that big of a deal to do the thing. Once you do, then it's really, you almost, in my opinion, I come to enjoy it. I do it sometimes just because I enjoy it. I don't even just do it because I'm short on time. Especially with smaller muscles. You know, if we're talking curls for biceps and tricep, any kind of tricep movement and abs, and even honestly smaller shoulder movements like lateral raises or face pulls or any of those kind of movements, those are amazing to group together because they're not very taxing. You're like doing a set of curls is not going to wear you out really for anything else. So, you know, I pretty much always do that. I'll group together curls with tricep extensions or even close grip bench press. And then followed by, you know, abs, or if I want to do face pulls or any of that kind of stuff, I just group them all together and I pretty much blast through it doesn't even matter how many sets I'm doing. I mean, I can do it very quickly because I can pretty much just start immediately with all of them because, like you said, it's the rest time is layering itself and it doesn't really affect me negatively. So yeah, I mean, grouping things together, I think is probably your best bet. There is probably a time where you need inevitably you're going to have to cut something out and like not do something for that day.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that because that's a situation I've run into quite a bit where the nature of my job is that I have to be reactive to people because I do IT. So, you know, if somebody has a major problem and I'm responsible for it, then I may have to respond to that depending on when the when the request comes in, or maybe I've got an appointment that I need to get to and I got to the gym late. You know, so how do you reconcile that? I mean, for me, I think the biggest things are like find whatever the primary workout is for that day for the program that you're on, which is going to differ dramatically, but program to program, or if you're coming up with one on your own, but spend the most amount of time on the primary lift and then start to cut after that. So as an example, right now, the program I'm on only has 3 workouts in a day, and it starts with squat every day. Starting strength is like that. Strong lifts is like that. There's probably others that are like that because you get so much mileage out of the squat. So I put all the attention on the squat, and then I start to cut things out after that if I have to. So as an example, strong lifts has you do 5 sets of 5 is the typical thing. That's a lot. Like it takes a while to get through. Like I say, it's a lot. It's probably no more than like a workout that has a lot more workouts in it, but it's so many sets. Like you're just doing, by the time you get to done, you're like, it's like 15 sets of things. So, I will make sure I get the 5 of the squat. I like spend 60% or if not more of your effort on the primary lift. Once you've checked that box, like you can like rest a little bit if you have to. Like you can not rest. That's not the right word, but like you can take the pressure off yourself. At least I do,
Yeah. Well, I actually, it's funny that you say that because I was actually going to bring up a alternative point to that. I think that is, you say that probably because I've told you to do that.
Yeah.
I totally think that's what you should do, but I think it completely depends on the type of program you're doing. So like you said, you're doing strong lifts. It's very limited in itself. There's not a lot going on with different types of movements. So you pretty much have no choice, but you've got to pick some kind of primary movement and hammer it if you're going to show up at all. Once you get more into an intermediate program where you're putting more time into other things, like, you might, you might have just discovered new workouts or new exercises that you really like. They work really well. They make you feel better. Like a good example for me is some of the kettlebell movements that I learned during COVID when I got a bunch of kettlebells. I discovered some of them like literally were like taking pain away in the middle of the movement. It was like my back would start feeling better. My shoulder would start feeling better. A good example would be like a kettlebell up, like where the bottom up overhead press, very lightweight, but it actually basically rehabbed my whole shoulder from where I had a really bad injury. I couldn't even do any kind of barbell overhead press. That whole pain has been completely gone now for a long time. The windmill really helps my back out. It kind of stretches my hamstrings and my glutes and everything. It stretches me out, my hips and everything. And I end up feeling better every single time I do it. So what I'm trying to say here is some of those movements you may not want to cut out because they actually make you feel better.
Right.
So if that's the case and you're in a program, like you're not necessarily just doing these very limited exercises. I think that there's some merit to even figuring out ways to reduce the time. So here's the thing. If you show up late to the gym and you've got a squat and now you're pretty dang strong, you've gotten to a point where you're squatting over 300, or even upper 200s, and it takes you a minute to warm up. It might take you 15 minutes really to warm up before you actually feel comfortable to start squatting that weight. And it's going to,
It'd be dangerous to do it before that. Yeah.
That time increase. The stronger you get, the more time you need to warm up.
Yeah.
When that happens, I think you actually are better off to not do that main movement if it's going to take you so long that now you've got 5 minutes to work out and you just started your first working set and you've got 3 or 5 of them to go. I would actually recommend pick a different movement. Now it's time to go to the leg press machine instead of squatting, or now it's time to do lunges. If you're at a home gym, you don't have all these machines like us. Okay, it's time to do lunges. It's time to do Bulgarian split squats, maybe goblet squats with a kettlebell or a dumbbell. Pick something that is faster. You don't really have to warm up very much at all. You know, you can kind of warm your body up pretty quickly, and then you can jump right in. That will speed you up dramatically because you're losing all that massive warm up time you've got to take. Is it going to negatively impact your progress? Not much. You know, especially if you're going to jump back on the horse the next week or the next session, whatever it is. Or you can even pick up that weight. Like if you're doing full body, for example, you're probably doing some kind of leg movement every session. Well, just move that heavy squat. Go to the other day and take the Bulgarian split squats out, then take those squats and move them to Friday if that's whatever, and just try your best to get up on time and get to the gym on time to do that. But definitely once you get past a certain point where the weight is heavy enough that it just takes a while to warm up, I had to kind of learn that because all of a sudden I would look at the clock and I'm like, holy moly, I have 10 minutes down here and I've got, 8 different movements to get through and multiple sets of each one. And I'm like, what have I done wrong? And I kind of had to learn that the hard way and figure out, okay, well, it's because of all this warm-up time and it's not smart. I would not cut your warm-ups out.
No.
At all.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think almost everybody could probably warm up more than they do. And you'd probably be stronger than you even realize.
Right.
You probably are stronger than you realize. But just allow yourself, Windler talks about that a lot in his book. He never cuts out. He has this whole like jumps and throws before you work out where you're throwing like a heavy ball or something and you jump, and he does the Agile 8, and he's pretty adamant about like, you don't work out if you don't do the workout if you don't have time to do that.
Yeah.
You don't cut that out just to make time. Because you're probably going to injure yourself. And the older you get, the more you realize people are right when they say that. And it's probably because they injured themselves not doing that in the past. So that would probably be my other side of it. Like I said, just consider not doing something that's going to take you forever to warm up on if you are limited on time. And it's like a one-time thing, or happens sporadically, but it's not very often. I don't make a habit of it if you want to make progress. But in the moment, if you just like you've gotten to the gym or you're in your basement or your garage and you're like, okay, I'm behind, but I'm here. Let's do something.
Yeah.
I would look at that, especially if you're intermediate or advanced and you've just gotten strong enough that it takes you a while to get through these things. Then start looking at how can I chop something out and then move it to another day.
Yeah. So to summarize all that, if you're on a beginner program like I am, that's essentially very limited in the number of workouts. Focus all your attention on the main lift because your primary goal is to get stronger on the main lifts,
and that's about all you're doing anyway.
Yeah, that's essentially what you're doing anyway.
Yeah.
But focus attention there. If you're on an intermediate program, consider actually doing the opposite and cutting the primary lift of that day and doing some alternative that's more quick. If you're on an advanced program, you probably don't listen to this podcast. So
it still would probably apply, but most
you're probably not. You're allotting lifters, the time if you're at that
most
point.
recreational lifters don't reach an actual advanced stage, so it doesn't apply to a lot of people.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I was going to say is if you find yourself, this has been me. This is my story for the last 2 years. If you find yourself constantly not meeting your commitment, you're on a program, but you're never actually doing it to you're not following it at the times when you're supposed to and doing the lifts that you're supposed to and all that, then consider changing the commitment, which is what I've sort of finally arrived at.
Yeah.
And it's finally starting to work a little bit. I am hilariously, I say that, and I'm not actually doing the program that I'm on. I'm skipping a day a week, but because it's a 3-day program, I'm
Right.
doing it on Monday,
But you planned
Wednesday.
for that, so it doesn't really
But
matter.
my point being, I said to myself,
Yeah.
this is what I'm doing, and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I didn't say I'm going to do a 3-day and then just continue to skip Fridays.
Right.
I just finally said I'm skipping Fridays because I've got to get up with my son on that day. It's just impossible for me to commit to being able to get over early enough to do the workout. And so that's what I'm doing. And it happens to lay very nicely with either Starting Strength or Strong Lifts because they are A/B programs in the beginning. So they're layering, you're doing it's basically like a Monday, Wednesday. I'm getting in all the lifts that you would get in that week anyway.
Yeah.
Normally on Friday, you'd go back to the Monday's workout. And then on Monday, you'd go back to Wednesday. So it works out very nicely to do 2 days. And the only cost that I'm paying is that I'm just not progressing as quickly.
Yeah.
Getting that Friday in would mean that I would be getting stronger faster.
Right. Yeah.
Which, would that be nice? Of course. But just if you find yourself constantly out of time,
Right.
and having to make these changes, the intention of this podcast was not to tell you what you should do every day. It's more like occasionally, if you find yourself low on time.
Well, that goes with what I said in the beginning about, finding the right program, picking the amount of days you want to lift and how much time you have for each day.
Yeah. And we've got a lot of content on programs and programming. You can scroll back through that if you're looking for alternatives, if you need to make a different commitment. Hopefully that will be helpful to you. And I think we'll land this plane, get you off to the work site. Son,
That's right.
get me to my chair. I used to say I would just ooze over to it like Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah. Forget about that.
Yeah, it's true. It's
Very true.
I always try to do a Jabba impression just now, and then I stop myself.
I saw you took a big breath.
Yeah, I was like,
Getting ready.
I can't do it. I can't. What does he even sound like?
I can't even think of it right now.
On my bookie.
Very nice.
Well, I've been Nick,
I've been Steven.
and we've been the working men who lift weights and talk about it on the show, and we will catch you next time.